Hello, my name is Joseph Scrimshaw. I'm here with Bill Corbett. A couple of years ago, Bill wrote a holiday play called Superpowered Revenge Christmas, and my company, Joking Envelope, produced it. So we're just going to talk a little bit about why. Why do we tell stories? Why do we tell those kind of stories?
Why?
So it was a reimagining of all of the kind of classic holiday characters, right?
Yeah, I pitched this to Joseph a long time before it happened, which is good, because you do have to write stuff before it happens. And my idea was basically to kind of to do a retcon in comic book language, a retroactive continuity of all the sort of iconic Christmas characters, both good, like Santa Claus, of course, and not so good, like Scrooge.
There's a lot of that, for better or worse, because we grow up with the stories.
Yeah.
I think we get trained to like the stories.
Right.
But then we get to that age where that makes absolutely no sense or has no
Right.
relevance to my life. But I accept it and I like the stories, so
Yeah, and
I make them enjoyable.
in that way, the Christmas myths and comic book characters are very much alike. Like when I was a kid, I believed in Batman, and I believed in Superman. And then later on, you have to, as you do so well in your comedy routine, or I don't know if you have a bit about how Batman is a ridiculous thing ultimately, and no matter how hard a Batman movie tries to make it real, it's still a guy with pointy bat ears.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that in like in every superhero myth, no matter how well it's done, you do have to suspend a lot of your disbelief, like you do for Christmas.
There's nothing in this mug. So where did the idea of kind of mashing together all of the Christmas ideas into one thing come from?
Gee, I never know how to answer those questions. I think I just got a wild hair once that it would be fun to, because there's so many of these characters we grow up with, and I knew that there was this whole thing happening in movies where every movie was a comic book movie, and had to be sort of reimagined for a new generation in some way. And there's a like, a lot about this. There's like a whole meta debate about how do you go dark? Do you sort of do you like the Dark Knight, or do you acknowledge the jokey nature, like we're in a comic book, so there's silly stuff.
And why do you wear blue so often? Yeah, so it was a lot of fun to play both the writer and the comic book character, because obviously it's easy for me to play a writer, a scrawny neurotic writer, because I am a scrawny neurotic writer.
You were terrible as the writer, actually. You're so good in everything else.
Too close to reality. So it was fun to start out that way and then transition into playing, a literally physically huge, muscle-bound superhero character, and just have like the energy and the attitude and all of the acting to convey so much about the superhero characters. So in a way, for me, that was really cool, and I think theater audiences liked it. But you're turning the story into an actual comic book, which is also exciting to me, because then you can actually see what this superhero would look like.
It's a weird sort of backwards reverse engineering thing that's happened here. It was a play about a guy writing a comic book, and now it has become a comic book.
So why did you decide then to ultimately teach your kids about Santa Claus?
Well, actually, I'm in the middle of struggling with that right now. I'm being kind of like, you're getting information about Santa Claus. What do you think about it?
Like they're hearing about him on the street anyway, right? So you have to talk to him.
Yeah. There's a lot of gang discussion of Santa Claus going on out there. But yeah, my wife, Virginia and my wife and I have talked about this a lot. Like, what were we up to here with the Santa Claus thing? Because it was sold pretty hard to me as a kid, and I'm suspicious of it as a marketing tool. I'm suspicious of using Santa as sort of a blunt instrument to get kids to behave, But there's also some obviously really nice things about it too. So I'm unsettled on that question. Yeah, before we leave, I would like to plug my new book. It's called Comedy of Doom by Joseph Scrimshaw, but I wrote it all. It's great. You really should buy it. I would like to plug my line of artisanal elk heads. Fresh cut for you, for anybody in the family. Good stocking stuffer. In some ways, it's like I've been fighting to preserve the humor in this version of it too, because that's important to me. That's sort of my core thing, for better or worse. And I'm saying for better or worse a lot. It's fun for people to know that there are options. But yeah, I mean, it's been tempting to throw some of the jokes overboard just to make it a more manageable project, because the page count is formidable, as it turns out. And at one point, I was toying with the idea of getting rid of the framing device in the bar, and I'm really, really glad I didn't now, because when I read it all together now, I just love coming back and having those sort of interstitial comments. And
I don't know if that's like a James Bond title or a sexual suggestion.
You know, once you make something sort of solid and concrete and you draw a picture of it, it's great in some ways because it can be really cool. On the other hand, what is missing now is people's chance to sort of make that into whatever they thought it would be. You know, so that is the trade-off, and I'm pretty happy with the trade-off so far. But like, there's a theoretical version of this comic book where the art isn't as great as Len's, and then, you know, it just isn't as fun as the play was. But I'm hoping we match the spirit and fun of the play.
I think you certainly do.
Well, we'll see. Thank you. Merry Christmas.